In today's world, alliances aren't just a luxury, they're survival. Wars, trade wars, pandemics, climate crises, shifting superpowers. No country can stand alone anymore. Even the strongest nations need friends they can trust, allies who will be there when the world gets messy. Now, when people think about Canada, one image usually comes to mind. Friendly, polite, peace-loving, a nation of hockey sticks, maple syrup, and saris. And yes, that's true. Canada has built a global reputation. It's one of the most diplomatic and well-liked countries on Earth. But here's the real question. Beyond the smiles, beyond the friendly reputation, who actually shows up for Canada when it matters most? History shows us that not every friendship runs deep. Some nations are partners only when it's convenient. Others disappear the moment the going gets tough. But a handful of countries, powerful, loyal, and tested by history, have proven that Canada isn't standing alone. They're not just neighbors or trading partners. They are allies that share blood, culture, defense, and destiny with Canada. In this video, we're diving into the 6 nations that have stood by Canada again and again. In war, in peace, in diplomacy, and in trade. Some are obvious, others might surprise you. Together, they form the backbone of Canada's security, its influence, and its survival in a rapidly changing world. Because the truth is this, Canada may be loved worldwide, but when the storms hit, it's these 6 nations that anchor its place on the global stage. Stick around, because the story of Canada's real friends isn't just about history. It's about the alliances shaping the future. United States, the complex but unbreakable ally. No ally defines Canada's position in the world more than its southern neighbor, the United States. The two countries share the longest undefended border on Earth, nearly 9,000 kilometers. A fact that says more about trust than any treaty ever could. For centuries, Canadians and Americans have lived side by side. They move back and forth across the border to work, shop, or vacation, often with little more than a friendly wave from customs. But the relationship goes far beyond convenience. Militarily, Canada and the US are locked into tight defense partnerships. Through NORAD, Canadian and American forces share responsibility for watching the skies. And through NATO, they fought side by side in global conflicts. From the Cold War to Afghanistan. Economically, the ties are just as deep. The United States is Canada's #1 trading partner. Canada, in turn, ranks as one of America's biggest. Millions of jobs in both countries depend on this relationship. Whether it's Canadian oil fueling American cars or American goods filling Canadian stores. The economies are so intertwined they often feel like one system. That doesn't mean it's always smooth sailing. The disputes are legendary. Softwood lumber battles, agricultural tariffs, and trade disagreements. Sometimes they flare up into headline news. But here's the key. These fights are family squabbles, not wars. Despite the occasional tension, the foundation of trust never crumbles. And when the world spins into crisis, Washington and Ottawa stand shoulder to shoulder. From coordinating on September 11th, to responding to pandemics, to providing aid after natural disasters. The two nations consistently prove their alliance isn't just about geography. It's about shared destiny. The US and Canada may bicker, but at the end of the day, there is no ally more important to Canada than America. United Kingdom, family ties, and global partnership. If the US is Canada's neighbor, the United Kingdom is its family. The connection is older, rooted in monarchy, language, and law. Canada is still part of the Commonwealth. It still shares a head of state in the British monarch. It still draws heavily on British traditions in government, culture, and education. These ties have been tested and proven in the crucible of war. In both world wars, Canada didn't hesitate. It stood with Britain from day one. Canadian soldiers fought and died on European soil, not just for their own country, but to defend the bonds that tied them to Britain. Even decades later, in conflicts like Afghanistan, Canadian and British troops once again stood side by side. Beyond the battlefield, cultural and legal ties remain unmistakable. Canada's parliamentary system is modeled after Westminster. The legal codes, traditions of governance, and shared love of literature and sport. They create a sense of familiarity between the two nations. It's not just political, it's cultural DNA. Today, those ties are evolving in new ways. With Brexit reshaping Britain's global position, London has sought to strengthen its partnerships outside the European Union. Canada, with its stable economy and strong Commonwealth link, has become a natural partner. Trade, intelligence sharing, and joint defense initiatives highlight the strength of this special relationship. But perhaps the most important part of the Canada-UK connection is the sense of family. Disagreements come and go, but the underlying relationship is like that of close relatives. They might live apart, yet still feel bound by blood. For Canada, the United Kingdom isn't just another ally. It's a reminder of where its story began, and a reassurance that when trouble comes, family stands together. France, history, language, and enduring friendship. If Britain is family, then France is Canada's cultural twin. The French influence in Canada is impossible to miss. From the language spoken in Quebec to the architecture of Old Montreal, to the French immersion classrooms across the country. French isn't just Canada's second official language. It's part of the nation's soul. Historically, France's role in shaping Canada was enormous. From the days of New France in the 1600s, to the struggles of colonial competition, to the preservation of language and identity in Quebec, French culture has left a permanent mark on Canada's national fabric. This shared heritage creates a bond that transcends politics. In modern times, Canada and France have stood shoulder to shoulder on the global stage. Both nations defend multilateralism, international law, and climate action. In NATO and the UN, they consistently advocate for diplomacy over aggression. In cultural arenas, the collaboration continues. Student exchanges, joint arts programs, and initiatives to preserve the French language in North America. They keep the partnership alive. Beyond heritage, it's about values. France and Canada share a vision of a world that is cooperative, sustainable, and democratic. Whether it's fighting climate change, promoting human rights, or shaping global culture, France and Canada are often aligned. Not because they must be, but because they want to be. That makes the friendship enduring, not transactional. India, people power and strategic partnership. Of all Canada's allies, India represents the future. The Indian diaspora in Canada is one of the largest in the world. Millions of Canadians trace their roots back to the subcontinent. This community is not just large, it is influential. It shapes Canadian politics, business, healthcare, and culture in powerful ways. The connection goes deeper than people. Both nations are vibrant democracies with diverse populations. Education and migration link them tightly. Thousands of Indian students flock to Canadian universities every year. Many stay to become part of the workforce, from tech and healthcare to construction and finance. Indo-Canadians are the backbone of critical sectors. Strategically, India and Canada are finding common ground in defense and technology. Energy partnerships, cybersecurity cooperation, and trade in agriculture and resources are growing. As India rises as a global power, Canada sees it not just as a partner, but as a necessary ally in balancing global shifts. Soft power is another binding force. Bollywood films fill Canadian cinemas. Yoga studios dot every Canadian city. Indian festivals like Diwali are celebrated coast to coast. This cultural exchange is more than entertainment. It's a bridge of identity. On the international stage, India often plays a quieter role in its support, but it is crucial, whether in trade blocs, climate negotiations, or peacekeeping missions. Canada and India's cooperation strengthens both nations. For Canada, India isn't just an ally. It's a reminder that global power doesn't only lie in armies and borders. It also lies in people, culture, and shared democratic ideals. Australia, brothers across the Pacific. Across the Pacific, Canada finds a kindred spirit in Australia. The two nations share more than just Commonwealth heritage. They share a worldview. Both are multicultural democracies built by waves of immigrants, governed by parliamentary systems, and shaped by British law and tradition. This brotherhood has often been tested in times of conflict. Canadian and Australian soldiers have stood shoulder to shoulder in World War I, World War II, Korea, and Afghanistan. In peacekeeping missions and Pacific security initiatives, they often work together. They reinforce each other's credibility as trusted middle powers. Beyond the battlefield, their similarities extend into society and culture. Both nations are deeply multicultural, turning diversity into strength. Both love their sports, from ice hockey to rugby and cricket. fueling a friendly rivalry that underscores their camaraderie. Trade and education are pillars of the relationship. Canada relies on Australia for energy, mining expertise, and agricultural goods. Australia benefits from Canadian investment and technology. Student exchanges between the two nations continue to grow. Young Canadians and Australians see each other's universities as stepping stones to global opportunities. In many ways, Canada and Australia are mirror nations. They reflect each other's values from opposite hemispheres. Both are vast, resource-rich countries located next to giant neighbors. Canada with the United States, Australia with China. Both balance economic opportunity with strategic caution. That shared reality means they understand each other's challenges in ways few others can. For Canada, Australia isn't just a friend, it's a brother across the sea. Japan, the strategic partner in Asia. In Asia, no relationship carries more weight for Canada than its partnership with Japan. Built on mutual respect, this alliance has steadily grown into one of Canada's most important. Economically, Japan is one of Canada's largest trading partners. Japanese cars, electronics, and technology fill Canadian homes. Canada exports energy, seafood, and agricultural products to Japan. The trade flows are complementary, strengthening both economies while deepening trust. Strategically, the two nations are firmly aligned on security. Both see the Indo-Pacific as a region of opportunity, but also of risk, especially with China's growing assertiveness. Through joint naval exercises, defense dialogues, and intelligence sharing, Canada and Japan work together to ensure stability and freedom of navigation in the Pacific. This security cooperation isn't about posturing. It's about preserving a rules-based order that protects both nations. Culturally, admiration runs deep. Japanese cuisine, art, and design are woven into Canadian cities. Japanese innovation inspires Canadian industries. At the same time, Canadian culture, from music to sports, finds a warm reception in Japan. This exchange goes beyond curiosity. It creates genuine respect between people. On the global stage, Japan and Canada consistently align on democracy, climate action, and peacekeeping. Both nations see themselves as responsible middle powers. They bridge East and West with diplomacy, stability, and foresight. For Canada, Japan isn't just a trade partner or security ally. It's a trusted friend in a region where trust is increasingly rare. Why these nations matter? When you look across the map at these 6 nations, you realize something that goes far beyond treaties or trade deals. Canada's greatest strength is not in the size of its army or the reach of its economy. It's in the depth of its friendships. In a world that is often fragmented by rivalry and distrust, Canada has managed to cultivate allies who trust it, rely on it, and, most importantly, stand with it when the stakes are highest. The foundation of these relationships is shared values. Democracy, fairness, multiculturalism, respect for diversity, and a commitment to global cooperation. These aren't just Canadian ideals. They are the common threads that bind Canada with its 6 closest allies. Unlike alliances built purely on military necessity or economic convenience, these partnerships have weathered storms because they are rooted in principle. Take the United States, for example. Yes, trade disputes and political differences sometimes spark tension, but the bedrock of trust has never wavered. In the aftermath of 9/11, Canadian airports welcomed stranded American flights. And in turn, American firefighters crossed into Canada to help battle wildfires. That's not just geopolitics, that's neighborly solidarity. Or look at Britain and France. These 2 European powers remind Canada of its roots, one English, one French. Yet both are integral to Canada's national identity. In the World Wars, Canadian soldiers fought on European soil not because they had to, but because they chose to. And decades later, that choice continues to echo in diplomatic, cultural, and military cooperation. Then there's India, whose massive diaspora has reshaped Canadian cities and politics. It's proof that alliances aren't only built in parliaments. They're built in classrooms, workplaces, and neighborhoods. Australia adds another layer of kinship. Even from the opposite side of the world, shared challenges and values create a brotherhood. And Japan, steady and principled, anchors Canada in Asia, the region that will define the century. Together, these nations don't just form a circle of support. They create Canada's safety net in a turbulent world. They ensure that Canada is never alone, no matter how unpredictable the global stage becomes. And perhaps most importantly, they amplify Canada's voice. They transform it from a middle power into a respected bridge builder between East and West, North and South. So when we ask, who truly stands by Canada, no matter what, the answer isn't theoretical. It's 6 nations that have proven their loyalty in blood, in trade, in diplomacy, and in shared values. The United States, the United Kingdom, France, India, Australia, and Japan. Each of these allies reflects a different side of Canada's story. The United States represents geography and survival, the indispensable partner in defense and economics. The United Kingdom and France embody Canada's roots. They remind the world that Canada was shaped by both English common law and French culture. India represents the power of people, migration, and shared democratic values. It makes the relationship as much about the future as the past. Australia reflects Canada like a mirror across the Pacific. Resource-rich, democratic, multicultural, yet always balancing between giant neighbors. And Japan connects Canada to Asia's dynamic future. It ensures Canada has a role in the century's most important region. This isn't about sentimentality, it's about survival. A nation of just 40 million people in a world of giants cannot thrive without allies who share its vision. Canada's genius has always been its ability to build relationships that go deeper than politics. Relationships that endure because they are grounded in trust and respect. And this is where Canada's true influence lies. While superpowers flex their military muscles, Canada leverages something more durable: loyalty. When Canada speaks at the UN, pushes for climate action, or calls for peacekeeping, it isn't alone. Its words are amplified by allies who trust that Canada means what it says and backs it with consistent action. That is what transforms a so-called middle power into something greater: a connector, a mediator, a stabilizer. In today's divided world, where alliances fracture and distrust grows, Canada offers a different model. It shows that true power comes not from standing over others, but from standing together. And these 6 allies prove that when Canada calls, it won't call into silence. It will hear voices answering back. Because in the end, when the storms of global politics rage, and they always do, Canada has nations that will not walk away. That loyalty, earned through history and cemented by shared values, may just be Canada's most valuable asset of all.